Welcome to Inspire Campfire, a podcast where ordinary people tell their stories of extraordinary adventure. These are campfire stories meant to inspire the rest of us to light the fire within, get outside, follow our dreams, and return to tell our own stories. Ready? Let's strike the match.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Scott Wurzbacher. And sometimes in life, we need to get a little lost in order to find ourselves. And often it's a big adventure that becomes the catalyst for that transformation. Today's guest, Oliver Treviso from Swansea, Wales, embodies that spirit of adventure. After facing uncertainty and conflict between who he believed himself to be and who he wanted to become, Oliver made a bold decision. He set out to walk the entire length of the Andes Mountains in South America. His journey stretched from Argentina all the way to Venezuela, ending at the Caribbean Sea. 7 countries, 14,000 kilometers, and 20 months on foot. Oliver recently returned from this extraordinary trek, and today he's here to share with us not only the incredible stories from the trail, but also the deeper reflections about finding himself through adventure. It's a conversation filled with adventure, vulnerability, passion, and depth, and I can't wait to share it with you. Ollie, welcome to the campfire.
Cheers, mate. That was hell of an intro.
Oh my gosh, what a journey you have. I mean, and you just got back too, like what, 2 months? As we're talking here today, it's been about 2 months?
Yeah, 2 months, which is surreal because it almost feels like it never happened. Like I do have moments where I'm thinking that could have just been a dream, you know, like how it's bizarre, but no, I'm starting to really enjoy looking back at it and think about some of everything just feels really positive to me now about it. You know, when I look back, I don't feel the pain or the hard days, which is really nice. So yeah, it's an amazing time in my life.
I'm so glad to have you here. Ollie,
good to be here.
7 countries, 14,000 kilometers, 20 months. Can you give listeners an overview of this trip, this adventure, this journey that you just took?
Yeah, so it was exactly that. I followed the Andes Mountains, which is the longest mountain range on Earth. So I started in Ushuaia on the island of Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. So that would have been the Beagle Channel was the body of water I met. I started that. And then it was Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and then Venezuela to finish off at the Caribbean Sea. So yeah, I think one of the big things that drew me to the Andes was just how diverse it was. When I would look at it, I thought, wow, you know, because I was thinking, oh, maybe I'll do Patagonia. I thought, well, Peru looks nice, and Bolivia, wow, the salt flats, and you know, so that was what I was really drawn to. I loved it that it started really at this hostile south, and then finishing at the Caribbean, which was just really was the opposite. That was massive for me, and yeah, that's exactly how it went. So yeah, incredible mountain range.
Yeah,
lots of.
It sounds like you were researching some different areas and couldn't decide, so you just said, "Let me do all of them."
That is literally the thought process. It was so a bit of a backstory to it, really. So I had a dream of traveling to South America for a long time. Took me years. Eventually sailed there from Europe to Brazil. When I was in Brazil, cycling through Brazil, I had a call from back home to say a member of my family had died in a tragic accident. So I went back, was in a bad place. And then, but you know, I was just drawn to the Andes, and I started to read and get excited for adventure again. And I was thinking about Patagonia, and then knowing that my cousin died so young, I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to do it all. Why not? You know, if life could end like that, why not just give it all a go? And that it was literally as simple as that. You know, I obviously should have prepared more. I made a lot of mistakes, but obviously I'm back home safe now, so I've learned a lot, and yeah, I'm happy that I'm home to share the story.
I mean, I have so many questions, but let's just start with, you just said I should have prepared more. So
yeah.
What did you do to prepare for this?
Well, so I took it on 3 months before I started. So there's never going to be enough time, especially with the experience that I had. I probably didn't really know how to prepare. But the first thing I did, the first things I was doing was trying to get as much information as I could on the Andes, basically, to plan some sort of route. Then I was trying to raise money, so I was literally just knocking doors of people that I knew had businesses that might be up for sponsoring me. So yeah, knocking doors, sending emails. Obviously, money was a big thing, and getting the right kit, I suppose. Those were the three basic things. And I also started to have Spanish lessons.
Nice.
3 times a week. So yeah, if I could have had anything, it would have been Spanish, like I eventually did really come on at the end when I was in Venezuela, but again, you can't regret it. But I know I missed out on a lot of information, but it's just something I went through, and now I can speak it a lot better. So
Yeah.
it was a really, really good Spanish course. If there's any way I want to learn Spanish, give me 2 years in a university or 2 years in the Andes, I'd go the Andes. So that's the way I'm looking at it.
I mean, people take years and years of classroom training in language, and it doesn't even, a lot of those people go to that region and not even be able to speak. It's like, you just throw yourself into it, and that's the way to do it.
Yeah. I would just try. I had no shame in trying, and sometimes it's hard because you want to express yourself. People are often laughing at you, but as you do, not in a malicious way, but just because it's funny. And I didn't mind, and I had no other choice. It was like that as well, and that was a big thing for me as well. Actually, I did just want to learn Spanish. It was always this sort of dream that I had, and that was my way of learning, I suppose. But at the end, then I had a guide for Venezuela. By that time, I got the basics, but then we were talking every day, and there was a lot more people involved. So then I just felt like I excelled then within the last 2 months.
Yeah. Ollie. So I'll kind of go back to some of the stuff that you just talked about, and maybe slow things down a little bit, because I know you packed a lot into a very short period of time. But, I think the first question that I have, and then I think most people are going to have, is, why take on an adventure like this? This is huge. It's going to be a lifetime thing. And you did mention some highlights about losing a family member and going through a dark period, but can you kind of walk us through the why?
Yeah. So it's definitely a combination of a lot of things. Like I said, this is going back to going to Australia when I was 21. So I started this when I was 28 and 29 now. So this is going back to going to Australia when I was 21 to work. That's why I went there. I didn't know about adventures or anything like that. I had family there. But it was in Australia that I met people who were traveling the world, basically. And I met a guy, I never forget, it was one of my first couple of weeks. And he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to South America after this. I just couldn't believe it that somebody was going to do that. And it was like in that moment, I thought, well, because I had a family in Spain, I knew that I wanted to learn Spanish. And then I sort of put them two together. So I love to learn Spanish and go to South America. That was really the most basic first step to this happening. And then with time, I carried on traveling. I eventually went to walk a lap of Wales. So that came, fell in love with this way of traveling, really. Walked the length of Britain in the middle of winter. I just wanted more. COVID broke out. And then, once COVID broke out, then I sailed to South America. But South America, was the pinnacle, and I was drawn to the Andes from the story of the rugby team that crashed in the Andes, that famous story.
Yeah.
Then there's the Welsh settlement that was in the Andes. And when I was looking at South America, I was seeing a lot of the Andes, and that's just what I was fascinated with. So it's really as simple as that. It's just that desire to see South America. Wanting a big challenge. I was curious, what would it be like to walk for a year? I wondered things like that as well. What would it just be like if I went more than 3 months? And then my family, my cousin passing away, and just really thinking, F it, I'm going to try it all. It was, and like you said, I was looking at it, I thought, well, the Caribbean looks nice, the tropics looks nice. the Altiplano, Patagonia, deserts, rainforests, glaciers. You know, it was all there, and I just thought, well, just give it a go and see what happens. So it was simple. It wasn't literally as simple as that, mate. It wasn't too much to it. I remember being home listening to. I was reading a book by Ranulph Fiennes about Shackleton that really kickstarted something for me. Like, it hit me really hard. Then listening to a podcast with Ranulph Fiennes, and then hear him sort of saying he had his heart attack. He pretty much died, and all his worries just didn't matter. That was it. It was as simple as that. I butchered that a little bit, but it was something along those lines. And I remember just all my weight coming off my shoulders. Like I said, I was having a bit of a tough time. And just cooking my dinner and sort of dropping my things and just going, I'm going to do it. I'm gonna. And it was like this euphoric moment in my kitchen. Everything's burning. And I'm just like celebrating the fact that I'm going to go and walk the Andes. So I'd say 3 months later, I was in Ushuaia, because the reason I started so soon, when I was in Brazil, I had this feeling like travel's over for me. I want to go and get a job, do a good on that thing. I was struggling, I wanted instant comfort. But my brother owed me money at the time, and my dream was to go to Argentina. That was like the pinnacle of if I was going to go to any country, it had to be Argentina. So I said to him, look, just book that. He owed me money, so book that flight to Argentina for me. So whatever happens, if I go to settle down now, I've sort of followed my dream to go to Argentina, then I can come home with no regrets. So it was like I was thinking one step ahead a little bit, and it's amazing how that then worked out. But that's what gave me that start date, really. Yeah. But it only gave me 3 months to prepare.
So many follow-ups. First, before I forget, you mentioned the book about Shackleton. Can you just talk about what it was about that story? And for listeners, let's assume that people don't know Shackleton stories. Yeah,
well, it's obviously, I think what I took from Shackleton, so he's an explorer of the poles, was in a most brief way. But I think what I really loved about him was that he wasn't ex-military. He wasn't from a really wealthy family. He just had this dream to travel, and he went after it at all costs. And spoiler alert, but he failed on 3 occasions, but created some of the best stories for me ever written. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I can relate to this guy, because I'm definitely not ex-military. I'm certainly not a scientist, and I'm 100% not really wealthy. And if I give this a go, that whatever, if there is a reason that stops it, it should be for a really bloody good reason. And I think it was those 2 things that I took from it. I just found it all really romantic, and that's what really struck the chord. But yeah, he had a lot of tenacity. He was confident, and he had a dream, and he went after it, and he wasn't letting anyone get in his way.
So I kind of feel like there was something, and this ties back to this podcast actually, but it seems like you read the story of this person, and in some way you kind of related to him. Like, he's not ex-military. Like, to you, he kind of just seemed like a regular guy, and you thought, like, if he can do it, I can do it. Why not?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Shackleton by any means, but I just thought, and I think I needed to hear his story. When you just read something and you just think, I was meant to read that.
Yeah.
In that, there was a gift, that book was. And it was just like, it happened at that time for a reason. I'm not very spiritual or anything, but that's how it felt. It just had, I couldn't put the book down. It sparked so many positive feelings for me, filled with excitement. And that was exactly it. I could relate to him. I remember feeling like, well, maybe I need to go into the military, or maybe I'm not supposed to do this unless I'm a scientist. And I'm not knocking any of those, by the way, because I admire them, but I'm just not. So I think that's the beauty in reading or listening to different conversations, isn't it?
Yeah. Tell me the author's name, because actually I want to read it. Like I know a very, very limited amount of information about Shackleton, but he's come up a bunch of times for me recently. And so it's like, I feel like I'm hearing it. I would like to do some more myself.
So it's written by Ranulph Fiennes, which do you know Ranulph Fiennes was obviously, they call him the greatest ever living day explorer, don't they? So and I think it's something that they say in the headline, to write about hell, it helps if you've been there. That's like I got shivers. No, actually, I thought, that's cool. That's the book.
To write about hell, you have to be there. You have to have been there.
Yeah, it helps if you've been there. Something like that. And that's what he does. He's comparing his experiences, and he's a madman, I suppose. And somebody again whose books that I've loved and have really inspired me. But I've always just felt like he's in a, he's ex-SAS. I'm just feeling like, I suppose there's not many people who can relate with him, to be honest with you. But like I said, it was just something in Shackleton's story that was really powerful for me. Yeah. And that was it. So
I love that. And if I forget to say it later, like, this is probably a good way to wrap up a podcast episode. But the point here is, like, you read Shackleton's story and felt inspired. And my hope is that people are going to hear your story and feel inspired. So I know they will, because I already am.
I hope so. And I say I'm not expecting anyone to go and walk a continent, but maybe just take a chance. Yeah. And that could be going to cooking lessons. It could be literally anything. I think the biggest thing about that was taking the first step of that adventure. That was the biggest thing. And I really believe that it is in most cases. Yeah. So I always just like stripping it back down that far. And like I said, maybe it's not walking really, really far, but something completely different. But it's so daunting sometimes to start something new, but you'd be surprised what you're made of when you start, I think. And also a lot of people that are willing to help you along the way as well, which has been so important on on my journey, I suppose.
Yeah, I love it. So, so going back to like the 3 months before your trip and you made this decision, I just noticed something that you said. You said you felt like everything was burning, and you just want, like, literally you're in the kitchen and it's like food, but you kind of was sort of this metaphor. It felt like everything was burning, and you said you just wanted comfort. So like the comfort of, going and doing a 20-month adventure, walking through the Andes, like, it's amazing.
You know what I think, and I really had a purpose then. I really had something, and I was just fully 100% devoted to, and it felt amazing that I had something that I really wanted to do. I felt like it had multiple purposes, but just the whole thing of it excited me, and every day I knew exactly what I was doing. So I think when they say about mental health and they having that purpose is so important, and I definitely had mine with it. There wasn't a spare minute. It was quite, when I look back, it was like overwhelming. It was relentless. But I only had 3 months. I was trying to learn a new language, prepare to walk a continent, and everything else that goes with it. And work 50 hours a week or whatever it was, scrape every penny I could to get it going, because I really started with such a small amount of money. But I just backed myself. I thought, well, this is an epic adventure. I thought it would be a lot easier than it was to raise the money. So I learned a lot that way. Obviously, it worked out in the end. But I just needed as much money as I could. So there's so many things. And I'm really close to my family. I wanted to try and spend time with them, but I didn't really, to be honest. There was no time. And so now I'm back this side of it. I'm really trying to make more effort to, just do the little things, with the family as well, because I think that's, so important.
Yeah, totally. So, okay. When you and I spoke a week or two ago, kind of just talking about this episode, I remember you sharing with me that when you got to Ushuaia, like, I don't know if this was sort of metaphorical or you actually were literally like looking at the mountains in front of you. But I remember like you kind of created this picture of you kind of at the starting point, looking at these mountains and feeling this sort of sense of overwhelm. Like, what did I just get myself into?
Exactly.
I wonder if you could talk about that. Yeah.
No, they are there. They're very much in your face. And the really strong first moment I had of seeing the Andes was flying over, arriving to Tierra Fuego, and just seeing the snow and all. You know, it was snowing as we were coming down, but just how terrifying the mountains looked from above. And then stepping off the plane and getting hit with it, you know, the strong gusts of wind, this very bit that they call it the end of the world, and that's exactly how it felt to me. But that was really, really difficult for me those first couple of days. But which has given me so much strength now, because at the other side of it, I'm starting a new chapter, and it'll never feel like that, how I felt there. It can't, you know, I'm sleeping on a bed every night. Do you know what I mean? I got family and friends around, so that's, again, something that a massive positive I've taken from it. But I would say one of the hardest things about it, when people ask it, was that start, you know, the anxiety I had, sick in my stomach. Because, like I said to you the other day, it's all well and good me and you chatting now about an idea, but then being at the start line on your own in a different continent with 14,000 kilometers of unknown ahead of you,
Yeah.
It's you can't comprehend that, I don't think.
Yeah.
I really don't think it's possible. So, yeah. But the other side of that, what was great was, I remember I started on a Tuesday, and I was checking the weather forecast. It was a sunny day on a Tuesday. I got the start, and I just started walking, and it was just like I was walking to the shop in Swansea. Like, nothing really, nothing at all changed. It was just in a foreign land, and I remember thinking, this is actually all right. This is why I'm doing it. I enjoy this, don't I? So it was this really bizarre moment when I saw, look at this lunatic walking with his rucksack, just smiling, walking into the mountains. But that's what it was. I sort of remember that's why I wanted to do it. It's something I enjoy, and it was as simple as that. Really, it was walk, carry enough of what you need, food, water, and do it again and again and again. But so once you stripped it back, the worst thing you start doing is thinking about 14,000 kilometers. But you think, I'll walk for an hour, and then I have a drop of water, start breaking it down. That was huge for me, coping with it. Really was.
So the first couple of days were really hard. I wanted to ask you what you were feeling, but you kind of shared already. You were feeling anxiety, sick to your stomach. And
I think, again, the scale of it was the hardest thing. Wasn't anything else. It was the fact that this was going to take so long. It really bothered me. So then that would make me emotional about being away from home, and it just naturally, the end is so far away at that time. And it probably wasn't until really halfway through that I started to ease off a little bit and enjoy, really start feeling content about what it was. And when I'd see my arrow on the map, and I think, well, that's a good dent now. So it took me a long time to really start to say, do you know what, let's just try and enjoy this now. Because it was just, let's get these big days in. And it was like I was playing darts, just constantly taken away from the 14,000 kilometers.
Well, what I'm hearing is the remedy for the sick feeling was to just take steps and just walk.
Yeah. Have a good routine. I till the last day, I loved putting my tent away. I had 2 cups of coffee every morning without fail. There's no way I was going anywhere without that.
I can do this. If I can have my 2 cups of coffee, I think I could do this.
Yeah, exactly. And if I didn't have them, it was a bad day, and South America knew about it. Do you know what I mean? But no, honestly, I used to wake up early. It would take me, with breakfast and everything, it'd take me about 2 hours normally to get from the moment I woke up, 2 cups of coffee. So I really tried to make the most of that morning time, and I just loved it. And I loved putting my stuff away properly. I had a real routine, everything, the way I put my pegs, every bit of that bag was exactly how I wanted it. And that was the first thing then that set me off for a good day. And even the natural thing that you got yesterday done, you're good. We're going again. It's the first buzz, and then I break it down then hour by hour. Normally after an hour I'd stop, I'd drink a water, have a wee, something like that. And that was it. And before, the day would just fly. Before we knew it, some days were obviously longer than others. But yeah, it was all about breaking it down really small, and yeah, like I said, having a routine, and that's it. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what you carried?
Yeah, so my kit, obviously kit wise, I had my sleep kit, so it would have been leggings, top merino stuff, thick socks. Obviously, it did change slightly, but it was always all right. And then I had a very light down jacket, pillow, sleeping bag, tent. Electrics wise, I did start off with a solar panel. That went because it wasn't going to be necessary. But I had 2 battery packs, phone, had my GoPro as well, which didn't really use too much. Obviously, I had my mid layers, waterproof jacket, trousers, basic medikit.
Yeah.
I think now. Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that was it.
basic backpacking gear is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, really basic.
Yeah.
Really basic for the mountain. I had tough equipment. Some things I started too light with, and they just didn't do the job. So I went for a bit heavier stuff just because access and money to the equipment. And what was I going to say? Yeah, that was it. So kit wise was all as you would. I went through probably 9 pairs of shoes over the whole thing. Yeah, so really just what you would take on a 3-day hike, I suppose. It wasn't as anything different than that. Obviously, the solar panel was the one thing I thought that did really become unnecessary that you probably wouldn't take. But yeah, 2 battery packs, I did it off in the end, which gave me about 10 days worth of power.
Yeah.
And I had that was a GPS satellite phone. I did have one of them that was maybe a bit more techy. Yeah. But cool. Apart from that, just basic. 1 pair of clothes a day, 1 pair of clothes a night. Kept it very basic.
Yeah, I love it. There's no way we're going to be able to get through all of the highlights and the lowlights that you've experienced over 14,000 kilometers. But I wonder if you could just share a few, maybe of your most memorable highlights and lowlights as you made this walk.
Yeah. So the first highlight was always walking into the Welsh settlement, because I'd been like hundreds of kilometers before it. In the desert, this one section was 300 kilometers, so it's like Swansea to London of nothing. Then I was really excited to go to this place, and I seen the Welsh Dragon 15 kilometers before where I thought it was going to be, and I was just so happy. I erupted with like this emotion, and a woman basically set up a museum. Went there. It's a long story. She gave me her number if I needed anything. I rushed around it in the day off because I didn't want to take too much time off. And I remember walking out and thinking, this is your dream now to visit this place. And you're leaving after a rush day. Go back, contact Angela from the museum and see if you can get yourself a proper guide. So she sent me this number. She said, give him a message. And his name was Alan Jones, which is like the most Welsh name in the world, if anybody doesn't know that. And then he took me to the mountains. He was Argentinian. His great-grandfather was part of the migration, singing Welsh hymns, climbing the mountain. And he was, explaining the history. And we had a beer at the top. He sang the Welsh national anthem. It was just like this really crazy moment, and he was such a lovely guy. So that was one of the highlights. I think scenery-wise, I'll give you one, was Uyuni, the salt flat. I spent 3 days in Uyuni on the salt, which is just, well, I suppose there's nothing like it really. It was breathtaking. It was complete silence. I didn't realize how vast it would be, because I know it's quite a touristic spot, but I didn't see anybody. And then
Can you describe that a little bit for people that aren't I'm not familiar actually.
Yeah, so Uyuni is the largest salt flat in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's up in the Altiplano. I'm going to say it's about 4,000 meters, roughly. It's high. It's definitely high. And yeah, it's freezing cold starting off, and you walk onto the salt, and it's just this abyss of salt. So I was covered 100 kilometers over the 3 days.
Wow.
And it's all it is your feet crunching on the salt. I was heading for a volcano. That was like my marker. And I just headed for that for 3 days. And there's just nothing apart from salt. It's absolutely incredible places. I know a lot of people go there on tours, which I'm sure is still fantastic. But it honestly made me feel emotional. It was that breathtaking, that far away from home in terms of, you just don't have anything like that in the UK or most places in the world. And I just loved the sunset and the sunrise. It was just, and I purposely took an alpaca fur blanket because I knew it would be cold because basically the salt turns to ice.
Okay.
It's extremely cold on there. And I was just so comfortable laying on the salt because of this blanket. Even my pack was like going above my head because of this blanket, but I didn't care. I was just so happy, so comfortable. And yeah, it's a memory, even talking about it now, because I haven't thought about it so much, but it's just something that I'll treasure forever, that just to be on the salt for that long.
Wow.
It was so special. So special.
I'm just sort of picturing just like a desert of salt for 3 days.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And it's all I could see what I was saying for a volcano. And it was great, actually, because when I got the other side, there was a family there. And you can imagine I just got all this salt behind me, white, just white. That's all. And it's important to say, you cannot take your glasses off. It's completely blinding.
Wow.
There was a family there, and you can just imagine now I'm a big, hairy guy walking off the salt, and you can see their mouths just going,
who is this person coming at us?
what on earth is going on here? And then February they come running over give me a drink and stuff like that, but they just couldn't. They never seen somebody walk over it, So, but I imagine from their angle to be having a picnic with your family, looking at it, and just see this hairy guy appear from the abyss must have been quite funny.
What was the water situation over those 3 days?
Yeah, so I was carrying a lot of water. So I probably set off with 8 liters of water, something like that. To be honest, I thought that I was going to do it in 2, but I was taking videos, trying to enjoy it a bit more. And so I had like 2.5 days, 3 days. No, I thought it would be 2.5. I did it in 3. But yeah, I was all right. I was very thirsty in the end because with the salt then as well, I think it does make you more thirsty. So
no place to get water.
No, definitely not. No, it is a desert of salt.
8 liters.
So it's a case of taking everything that you need. And the way I went, because there is like a little island that they've made for tourism, but the way I went was just straight across. So I could have gone and found it, I suppose, but I didn't even see it. I might have even been further away. I can't remember. But no water, just everything that I took. Wow. It was wild. It was amazing.
Couple more natural highlights.
Yeah, well, as well, actually, that whole crossing into Bolivia, so Eduardo Averón National Park, the Altiplano, it's like you're on Mars, but with these giant volcanoes, 6,000-meter volcanoes. And that was another one as well, just made you feel emotional. It was just so surreal. It was like you're in space. And then you have different colored lakes, pelicans, and it's a bit of a joke. It's just like, what on earth? How is this a thing? And obviously it's freeze. It's so cold in the night, -15, I think it was when I was there. But just breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. What else? So they're all incredible countries. I don't want to miss Patagonia because that's just in a world of its own as well, with the glaciers, the forest, the dense forest. And then Peru again. I mean, Peru could take me from, I would drop over 2,000 meters in a day sometimes. So you're going from up in the Bear Glacier down into the rainforest and then into this red hot desert all within a day. There's not many places in the world you could do that, but that was constant because it's just all these deep valleys. So Peru is incredible as well. Ecuador, I climbed Cotopaxi and Chimborazo. So nice. Yeah, so that they were pretty epic. Colombia again is so diverse. People don't talk about that side of Colombia. Just how diverse it is. Again, I went into the rainforest, into the desert, and then you're in the Paramo, which is like moorland basically, and then all the different types of people are going it, and then Venezuela, is the same. We've got them big rugged mountains going up to nearly 5,000 meters to this incredible Caribbean Sea, with crystal clear water, wildlife. Yeah, wow, it was epic.
I mean, so it sounds like heaven, but I know you had some challenges along the way. Let's hear some of the lowlights.
Yeah, so definitely, the stresses of it all. Like I said, the money was always a big thing, but the fall in Patagonia was probably one of the toughest things I went through. So try and go through it briefly, but it was an 8-day stretch of wilderness in Patagonia. So I knew there wouldn't be anything for those 8 days. And it really was in the rugged mountains. It was never about, ridge lines or anything like that, but this section was high up into the mountains. On the first day, I passed a gaucho, and a gaucho is basically the Argentinian cowboy that takes their livestock up to the mountains in the summer months to fatten up, and they just live in this bare shack, wooden shelter, cook on the fire, no electricity, no toilet. Got chatting to one of them, which is amazing to meet one, by the way, because it's a rare breed, and he was warning me about the puma. I thought there's no way a puma's coming after me, not with all this nice cattle you've got here. Next thing, this white fluffy thing runs over. For a minute, I thought, no way, but it was his dog, thankfully. But the dog stayed with me for a while. They normally do, and then they leave. He just wasn't leaving. I was trying to tell him to leave me alone, not because I wanted him to, but I'm thinking about, the dog and the gaucho. And hours later, I arrived at this river crossing. I go through with it, which a lot of force is needed. It's coming up to my chest. But I'm also thinking, that's the end of the dog. There's no way the dog is getting through.
Yeah.
Turned up one last look at the dog, and the dog's getting taken down the river. Oh. So I jumped in, grabbed the dog, pulled him back to land. He's obviously stayed with me. We've got the camp the first night and thinking, he'd probably go back now. Woke up in the morning, he's still there. And then anyway, fast forward to day 4. So we're halfway through a section. I summited this mountain, one of the highest of my life. And the worst thing as well, this is probably, or by far, the most treacherous, demanding part of the whole trip. It was really physical, and there was no path or anything like that. So I was buzzing to summit this mountain. On my way back down, I slipped. Next thing, I got my hand dangling onto a big rock. My other arm in my hand, I got my walking pole. I jammed that into the side of the mountain, and I'm now dangling into the gorge. So I'm dangling into the gorge. As I've gone to pull myself up on the rock's given way, and I've just started free falling down into the gorge. And yeah, I just remember feeling like I was falling for so long, and honestly not knowing if I was going to survive. It was like that deep, I suppose. Not just the gorge, but the way I was thinking. But anyway, I've fallen unconscious. Don't know how long I was there. Come round, and I'm obviously 4 days into 8 days.
Right.
Because 4 days backwards, 4 days forward to any civilization. So, and it's bad at what I did, but the ego side was like, you're not stopping. You need to keep going, which is obviously a terrible thing to do. So I carried on going. And I sort of caught this red roof to the west. And when you know that you're supposed to do something.
Yes.
I tried to fight it off and thought, no, just keep going. That is then turned into a glacier. And it was worth saying, I couldn't follow my GPS. I was so out of it. Every time I looked at it, I was way off. And this is at the side of these giant mountains now. So I made the decision to head to the red roof, gone down into this gorge to follow this river, like a glacier melt, basically. And I'm scrambling underneath, chucking my bag, and they just dropping down in big steps. And as far as I could see, it was going down again. Terrible decision making by me. Eventually, it's a long story, but it took me hours, and it turned into a waterfall. And I'm on this really short ledge. And I never felt been so overwhelmed with fear and the force of nature. I'm feeling like a little boy, just completely overwhelmed by it all and almost losing my shit, to be honest, because I just didn't know what to do. Because if I had to go back that way, it was so difficult to even get here. How am I going to get down to this red roof now? Is it all these and it was getting dark. Anyway, gathered my thoughts, took a deep breath, headed back up through the gorge. Eventually got back onto out of the gorge, and the dog has actually started to sniff out the goat trail.
Oh my gosh.
The goat's poo basically. He sniffed that, and then that's led us down the side of the valley, which is like, is it insane? But that led us down. We camped the night at the bottom of the valley because it was dark, and then woke up in the morning, felt like I'd been run over. Eventually got to the Red Roof. The police station, Mountain Police, was just a bit further down, which I did see in my GPS on the way down. I arrived there. They were looking at me like I was some sort of alien because it's so remote.
Right.
Obviously, all my face is bust open, my clothes are ripped. I can barely walk. They pulled me in, gave me a Brazilian football top, made me scrambled eggs, and then got the aerial out and phoned in rescue. So they didn't even have a vehicle. It was that remote.
Yeah.
And then I'd ended up fracturing my foot, and I bust my jaw open. But they sort of, the worst part about it was saying bye to the dog, to be honest with you. I was devastated because we'd been through so much together. Obviously, I thought long and hard, could I take him with me? But they seemed to know the gaucho. I was a family there that were willing to take him in. And that was a decision I had to make at the time, really, for the best for everyone involved. So, yeah, but I still think about him.
What a cool story, though. He was your buddy the whole way. I mean, he was your your protector. Wow.
Yeah, he was just like, he was like somebody sent him. He was, again, I'm not spiritual or anything like that, but it was almost like he was meant to be there to help me out, to be honest with you. So yeah, and just the fact that he was there, he really suppressed that thing of feeling lonely. I never felt lonely with him. 4 days on your own. It's hard to do. It's hard to find a place where you could be 4 days on really without seeing another human. That's quite difficult.
Yeah. And so I wanted to ask you about that, and then also like people that you met along the way. But I mean, over this 20-month period of time, I mean, you spent a lot of time by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot, 95%. I think that's just coming home was quite hard. It probably, I just used to being on my own, used to being not talking so much.
Yeah. So
it's like I'm a sociable person, but it's challenging for me now almost. Yeah, a lot of time on my own, but just got used to it. Just as far as I was concerned, this was all part and parcel of what I was doing. I never really let it get to me. I remember once being in my tent in the middle of the desert, just thinking, oh my God, you're on your own in the middle of the desert, and just thinking, well, what was you expecting? Obviously you are, and I just sort of make a joke out of it, then that's the way it was. But what is amazing was like just how a smiley face could even be a little allure, the boost that would give me. It was all, and I always felt like when I was getting taken to the edge, maybe emotionally, that something would just come. It always felt like that for me. Yeah, that was the story behind it. Really, it was just like, you are gonna get pushed to your edge now, but don't worry, because something's gonna happen to make you feel better. It gives me that sort of confidence, and even that's transferable now to. It's not saying I'm gonna run and jump up a cliff and somebody's gonna catch me, but I just feel like when you're doing what you really want to do, and they'll put you in a positive thing, it will come for you. Right, that's what I mean when it gives me confidence, and then I feel like I can go after anything within my sort of, where I want to go, and feel confident enough that I'll get there. And then be people.
I think that's such an important thing, though. I heard you say, like, when you get to this emotional edge, it seems like somebody always shows up.
Yeah.
Are there any examples of that you experienced on this trip?
Yeah. This is quite bizarre. This was in the desert in Argentina. There's a lot of stories I can tell you about this, but in the desert in Argentina, again, out there this is early days, so, and I would never have been on my own for this sort of these amounts of time, and just sort of questioning everything. Really, it was the first month, feeling quite down about it all. I was probably a bit fed up. Barely anyone passed me all day, and on this day, a guy stopped next to me in a van. yeah, in Spanish, asked me, what are you, why are you here? What are you doing? Speaking in Spanish. He asked where I'm from. I said Wales, and he said Swansea. I said, yeah. And I would actually told him to F off because I couldn't believe he just said the city that I'm from. So I said, yeah, why? He said, I led an expedition for a group from Swansea to Venezuela. When you get to Bariloche, this amazing place in Patagonia that I would find out. You can come and stay. You can come and stay with my family. I arrived there Christmas time, spent Christmas with family. But I think there's a lot of amazing things that came from him. Actually, even the guide they had for Venezuela was from him. But it was just not. And he said something that 90% of the people who give you a number do. Said, look, I'll be here if you need anything. If you need to talk, if you need to chat, just ask me and I'll do everything to help you out. That's the sort of thing. Obviously, the Christmas with the family is brilliant, but when you've got that support, I actually remember being buzzing after that. In the day, I walked off. I remember camping not so long after with the biggest smile on my face ever. One, because I just met the guy who knows Swansea, which is bizarre, but just the fact that he stopped to try and help me out. So it could just be little situations like that. But it happened all the time to me. And if we got time for one more, worth saying. So the place that was causing me the biggest problem was always the Venezuelan border.
Yeah.
Everyone I spoke to pretty much just laughed at me, told me I had experienced adventure actually before it. We'd done a long adventure through the Andes, telling me to take out the insurance for my dead body. But I was having hundreds of messages about this place. And, I put it back in my head. I thought, we've got thousands of miles left before we get there. Don't worry about it. But eventually I obviously got there, got to Colombia, met this guy, an Australian guy. And he said, I told him what he was doing. He was like, I don't think so, mate. He said, I know. I said, I know it's dangerous. He said, no, I don't think you realize what's going on. Basically, a new war had broken out. It's the worst they've seen it in 20 years. And it's off limits. It's completely off limits. So, okay, I was still quite far away, 500 kilometers. I'll keep walking, see what's happening, because it's all very often that the reality is different to what the headlines are. That was a constant thing. And it was the same thing. No, yeah, it's fine, but maybe 100 kilometers away, it's really dangerous there. And you get 100 kilometers, they are saying the same thing. But, they would tell me that this border is really dangerous. Anyway, 300 kilometers before the border, this man randomly stopped next to me in his car. His name was Jesus, by the way. And he's like, what are you doing here? Where are you going? I explained to what I was doing. And I was always hoping to meet someone from Cucuta, which was the border city. He said, look, here's my number. If you need anything, tell me. He said, and because I said, oh, you're from Cucuta? I got another question. He said, here's my number, blah, blah, blah. So Pamplona, which was a town 70 kilometers from Cucuta, people are saying, look, when you get there, you need to find a solution to get to Cucuta. I arrived there on a Sunday, and I was going to give myself 3 days to find a way to find support or just a solution to get me there. I arrive on a Sunday. Jesus messages me, hello, mate, I'm going to be in Pamplona tomorrow. Can I take you for breakfast? So that's the first thing. Takes me for breakfast. His dad lives there. Of course he bloody does. Takes me for breakfast. And he's like, look, I'll take your bag. So it was great because it always adds a little bit of something when you've got the bag, not just weight, but you naturally attract. I mean, I always stood out anyway, but you've got your bag. People want to know what's in your bag, don't they? It's as simple as that. So that was a big one. He took my bag. So I gave him a stranger I met for an hour, my bag, my passport, everything. I give it all to him. I just trusted him so much. He told me a place that I could stay. So 70 kilometers I was going to do in a day. He said, look, don't worry. If you need anything, just ring me. Keep your phone. I arrived to that first place, the first night. Second day, he told me a place to stay right by his house. He then came to pick me up with his family, drove me the route so I knew where to go in the morning, to show me the way. Took me over to his family's house then, and we were having pizza in one of the most dangerous places in the world. I just thought, this is absolutely fantastic. It was everything I could have wanted and more.
Wow.
And again, they reassured me. Yeah. I went back there for breakfast in the morning. I walked there because he was on my way. And he basically followed me. I mean, he didn't follow me. He went, 10 minutes behind me, but he left a bit after me and he took my bag and just made sure I was all right. And what it did, it just told me that I was in the right place.
Yeah.
It was just too much. Like, you know, it was too much. I mean, this place had been making me feel sick for about 2 months. It always was a problem, but really towards the end, then it was making me feel sick in the morning. I had to leave this safe place and walk into this sort of, just war zone. That's what it was being told. So then to have that, if I could write I just tell that story and I wouldn't tell anything else. It just sums up humanity. It sums up everything I wanted and more from the walk. It's talk about the beautiful landscapes, but the fact that this place caused me so much shit, and then I'm in somebody's house having pizza with their family there was just like,
it's amazing. There's a Mark Twain quote, and I'm going to mess it up, but it's something like, I've had many worries in my life, most of which have never happened. Yeah,
well, exactly. Couldn't put it better myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great story. So, there's so many things that we could talk about. Like, what was it like for you to get to the Caribbean Sea and finish this journey?
Yeah, I mean, that was another one that, you build up this moment. It's what I've been thinking about every day for 2 years. But I think what happened, my father and my brother flew out 3 days before the end. And I think I was done then. I think I was just emotionally done. And it was mad because when we arrived into the Caribbean, we went to a place called Chuao, which is a old indigenous community in Venezuela where they produce the best chocolate in the world. But we trekked through the jungle, and I just wanted to finish, but then they were pulling me in for food everywhere. Then we were having photos, so it took me. It took so long, to get to the end on that last day. And what was brilliant, there was a bar then on the beach, and as I was walking past, they put the Welsh national anthem on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was bizarre, but yeah, it was. Yeah, it probably hit me more the next day when I looked out to the sea. And I remember just thinking, God, you can't actually walk anymore now. This is it, this is the end of, and then sort of connecting Ushuaia to this point. I just think that last day was just really overwhelming. But it was maybe a couple of days after when we spent a bit of time at the sea. Obviously, we jumped in, after it finished and everything was great. But I think it was a couple of days after. Again, I probably couldn't process it. Never will, I suppose. But that was, I know it was probably a little bit scary for me as well, because I was like, oh, this is the end. What am I going to do now? There was a lot of that going on as well. So, yeah, mixed emotions, obviously elated as well. But maybe a touch disappointed, there's so many things. I think everything just flashes through. I just couldn't wait for a beer, I think.
So we talked a little bit about this idea of like lost and found, right? Sometimes you have to go get lost in order to find yourself. So I'm curious, like, if you could talk a little bit about the person, like when you look back at the person that you were before this adventure and who you became in the process. I wonder if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think coming back, I think I'm just very grateful would be the big. You see a lot, again, not just the landscapes, but the interactions you have with people, people walking out to Venezuela, they're not getting sponsored or anything like that. And a lot of that, you don't forget it. And so I think I'm very grateful for the small things. I can see that some people, again, a lot worked out about things maybe I don't that I want as much now, which is good. Confidence, I think, it's given me a lot of purpose. Again, now flipping this back to mental health, and I feel so confident that that's the sort of path I want to be going at now, is to encourage people to embrace the benefits of the outdoors, I suppose. I know, because it does give you that purpose. It does give you make you grateful. Perspective is a massive one, isn't it? And I just love it. I absolutely love it. So I don't know. It's still early days, how have I changed? But those are some of the key things that I am noticing massively. You know, confidence would be a big one. Still struggle. I probably got a bit of social anxiety, to be honest. You know, which should maybe be more of a negative thing. But the flip side of that is, of course, I have. I've been on my own 20 months, and
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
You're not practiced there.
yeah. So, and I got the confidence to know that I'll get through it. You know, that's what you can take from it on a selfish level, I suppose. You could. Yeah. It's given me so much, and I'm in that process now of going through it and really learning from it, because it's still quite I don't know, it's so many things happened. There was such a long time, and that's what I look forward now to going into the schools and trying to share the story for me to recognize what I've learned, because it'll be a lot, but sometimes you have to break it down, I suppose, and really get the value out of it.
You mentioned to me on the phone a couple of weeks ago that you had the opportunity to go, I think maybe give a talk at one of your old schools.
Yeah. So it was,
yeah, you were telling me that that you kind of were looking out at the kids that you were giving the talk to, and like remembering yourself when you were in their position. And if you could talk about that.
Yeah, that was probably one of the highs of coming home, I think, because again, that's terrifying. Standing in front of a group of people to share your story, especially your old school. A lot of your old teachers are there. Again, I'm thinking, what have I done? Why have I decided to do this? But it was so, you know, because it goes back to as well, you know, when I've heard Shackleton's story, for example, I thought, why didn't I know about this before? And again, not comparing myself to Shackleton, but maybe there was somebody out there, you know, seeing that they're very relatable, hopefully to them, and then could inspire them to go after what they really want to do against actually, you know, because I think that it can feel like there's a certain type of person that does an adventure or things like that, and I know I'm not like that, so I hope that it could be relatable for them. But yeah, again, going back to me, it was like I could see myself out there, you know, and I hated school. I was so lost. I really didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. And I never, ever imagined that I would be standing out in front of the school, giving them I don't want to call it inspiring, but a talk about my life. Yeah. So it felt fantastic, I suppose. And then so I was be chatting to my older teachers, and yeah, what a full circle, isn't it? I suppose it really felt good. Really felt.
Yeah. And I just recall from when we spoke, I mean, you know, I think there was a part of you that was kind of looking back at the person that you perceived yourself to be, and kind of wishing you were somebody different. And I'm curious how this is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point, because it was definitely like that. You know, I think I told you that on the phone, was getting up to a lot of no good, especially late teens, early 20s. And then once my eyes had sort of started to open from traveling and realizing that the way I've been acting is terrible, at the least, that then started this very negative spiral, because I just thought, well, that's Ollie then, you know, that's the way, and you can't change. So, and that was just really hard for me, suffocating, dark, grey. Like I talked to someone the other day, like feeling that weight on my shoulders, but only realizing how heavy it was when it left. So now, you know, to really be able to stand there and say, look, you are going to do some things wrong, but don't let it define you at all. And I don't, not one for blowing my own trumpet by any means, but I would say I'm living proof of that now, because I can talk about the bad times, because I know that I wouldn't do it now. You know, and I know it. I don't need to listen to anyone. I can just tell you straight that I just wouldn't. When I think back, you know, the fight, you know, I just can't even believe I did it. I can't believe it was me. Like, so that's why I can stand there in front of them and do it now. And I think people need to hear that. As much as I never thought I'd be the type of person to be speaking in front of people, but I just think, well, I probably need to hear my story when I was younger. It took me a while to find that relatable, you know, those relatable stories.
It's awesome, man. It's just like Shackleton inspired you. Now you get to inspire others. And, hopefully people are going to see themselves in you and recognize like, I can do something like this too. It's so awesome.
Hopefully. I hope so. That would be nice. Even if it's just one person would be great, wouldn't it?
Well, you already done because like you've inspired me. So
yeah,
we got the one person. We can keep going.
Job done. Yeah.
Well done.
Cheers, mate.
Man, you're awesome.
You.
So listen, I mean, the story is so epic. I mean, you walked 14,000 kilometers from Argentina to the Caribbean Sea, 20 months. Like at some point, Ollie, Hollywood's going to pick up on your story.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to make a movie about you. And I want to know when they do, who's going to be the Hollywood actor that's going to play you in your movie?
I didn't get an actor. I got one. Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. Yeah, man. He's awesome.
Go big. Go big.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What's your movie going to be called?
Oh, I don't know. The Walk. Maybe?
The Walk. Starring Tom Hardy. Man, I love it. I'm definitely going to watch that movie.
We'll have to give him a message to see if he's up for it.
I love it. Ollie, that's awesome. What is there anything else that you want to kind of share with listeners if somebody's thinking about stepping into a big adventure? Any advice that you have for them?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the anticipation is always 100 times worse than what it actually is. I mean, I've definitely been guilty of going in two-footed. I didn't go hiking. I just walked a lap of Wales. It was just like a straight into this 1,100-mile thing. But I would literally just say start small. And something I'm doing now, which I'm happy about, is searching for people to do it with. Like I really wanted to do things on my own, just because I did. But now I'm sort of like I want to do it with other people. And what you find is, I'm sure, in Venezuela, you wouldn't believe the walking groups that came to join me. They're everywhere. And they all got their matching kit. This is brilliant. They carry the flags and everything. But that's what I would do. I would try and find a group. I'm sure that they'll. That you'll find one, and start small and just enjoy it. And don't worry about everyone else's social media. Just go after it, I suppose. And because again, I remember the Andes, for example, so overwhelming. But once you start doing a bit of research, there's probably some information out there. Yeah. So just give it a go and back yourself, and remember that it's going to be fine anyway. What is really the worst that could happen? For example, if you do go for a small walk, it's not a lot.
Yeah, I love it. If people want to find out more about you or follow you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so Instagram's basically the main one for me, and it's under Oliver Treviso is my handle.
Oliver Treviso on Instagram. That's awesome. Man, I love your energy. This trip was just epic. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today.
No, I've loved it. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak to you.
Yeah, and for those listening, I hope you've been inspired today as much as I have. I hope Oliver's story has encouraged you to listen to the voice inside that calls you to adventure, because we want to hear your story next. If you have a story to tell or just need a nudge to create one, please send me an email. We'd also appreciate it if you'd help us spread the word by leaving a review and sharing or tagging Inspire Campfire in your social media. And until next time, I want to encourage you to get outside. Thanks for listening. Ollie, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.